So it's 6 o'clock on the nose, and we're going to get started, and we will welcome people as they come in. My name's Carrie Thompson. I am the mayor of Bloomington, and I will just spend a few minutes updating you on what I'm working on these days and what my priorities are, and then we have Councilmember Kate Rosenbarger, and she will do the same, and then we are going to take your questions. And Josefa and Justin and Angela are accepting question cards. So if you didn't pick one up, they can hand them to you so you don't have to make the long trek down. And once you have a question written down, you can funnel them down through them to us. So first, I just want to start by thanking you for showing up tonight. These town halls have been a great joy to host, and we're really grateful to Dr. Gibson and Tri-North for hosting us here tonight. As I have done throughout my campaign and now as mayor, I'm committed to at least once a month having a public forum where I can really talk face-to-face to our residents and get your questions and ideas and your ideas and challenges and opportunities are really feeding my administration with focus and new possibility. And so I appreciate the effort that you took to come here tonight. In the future, if you're not able to make it to a town hall, you see Katz is here with us. We do accept questions in the mayor's office online ahead of time, and we'll do our best to answer those during the town hall as well, for those of you who are watching at home. So, one of my top priorities in government is to have an open, accessible government, and that's why I'm doing this. It's why once I'm off crutches, I'll start knocking doors again and talking to people where you live. I'm also looking for ways to include people outside of big forum meetings. And so as we talk tonight and you have ideas about how to reach people who aren't able to come to meetings like this, who have a more restricted schedule or are maybe not able-bodied to attend. I really am interested in how we get their voices to the table and how we are really listening to all of the residents of Bloomington. My second priority is housing at all levels, especially housing that's affordable to people who work here in Bloomington. And so lately I've been spending a lot of time on our Hopewell development, and if you're tracking city council, you know that last night they approved the Summit PUD on the southwest side of town. Those two initiatives are going to provide a significant number of new units of housing that are really targeted to the people that work here in Bloomington and in the region around Bloomington. And then third priority is addressing our mental health and substance use crisis, especially for people who are personally living in crisis with those two issues. And I'm pleased to say that there are some new coalitions forming around that. We have many nonprofits and healthcare providers that are working on mental health and substance use. But what I've been saying for many months is that we have Heading Home that is dealing with, as an umbrella organization, with solving homelessness, the housing part of that. We need a parallel track that is really working on mental health and substance use, so that people can be whole and healthy and really able to take advantage of what Bloomington has to offer and climb their ladder of success in life. So those are my three priorities. That's what I've been working on. Some of the questions lead into some of the other things I've been working on, so I'll table those things and let Kate have the mic.
Hi all, thank you Mayor Thompson for having this, and thanks everyone for being here. I'm Kate Rosenbarger, currently the City Council person for District 2. This is my second term. I was District 1, but after redistricting now I am 2 with mostly the same district except more neighborhoods to the north. I didn't prepare anything, so usually I start by letting everyone know I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. Southern Belle, actually, but lived across the river in New Albany my entire life. So some priorities of mine at City Council, or what I'm working on right now, I am the council liaison for the Safe Streets for All committee. That is the federal program for what we also call Vision Zero. So that is helping Bloomington get on a path to zero traffic fatalities and serious injuries in our city on all of our streets. A pretty admirable goal, I would say, for our city. Some other small pieces of legislation that are in the works for me. I'm looking at regulating short-term rentals, so something we normally kind of think of as Airbnbs or under 30 days. The state doesn't let us do that much, but we can do a little. So looking at what other cities in Indiana have done and just taking their legislation, I think, and hoping we can get that a little more under wraps, but we are not allowed. We are preempted from doing most anything from the state there. I'm really happy just to, I think, hear questions and just get going on that. I door knock. I used to do constituent meetings. There are so many now with the other representatives, so I changed to door knocking in lieu of my monthly meeting. So looking forward to seeing some of you at the doors over the next 4 years. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Kate. We really appreciate you co-hosting in your district, and grateful for all of you for being here. So we have a stack of questions. Are there any in here that you particularly want to take a shot at first?
No.
No.
It's okay. I mean, I think we'll get to all of them. So.
Yeah, I think we will too. So let me take one of the hardest ones first, the biggest picture. How would things change if we had outcomes-based budgeting? So the outcomes-based budgeting proposal that has come forward by Council Member Asari, co-sponsored by
We're supposed
you?
to, yes,
Okay.
and Sydney.
So this is a true outcome-based budgeting means that you set a goal and you put budget behind it to get it achieved. And so, for instance, in the course of what we've already talked about tonight, we would have the Safe Streets Initiative, and we would be looking at all of the components to achieve that Vision Zero, and there would be a comprehensive budget with outcomes that is targeted at that Vision Zero. And the reason that this can really pivot the city forward is because when we're dealing with things like Vision Zero, or we're dealing with street homelessness, we may have 4 different departments that have different pieces of those initiatives, all of which have a different piece of the budget. And it's hard for the public, frankly, to track how much money we're putting into solving homelessness or putting into Vision Zero. And it also, if you budget that way, it naturally brings teams in the city together to be collaborating and making sure we're not duplicating work. So an outcomes-based budget, which we're not going to get to this year, we've all acknowledged that we won't get fully to an outcomes-based budget for 2025, but we're going to start stepping our way into it and see how we can iterate into reports and the visionary pieces that we need in order to really achieve that, hopefully in 2026 budget cycle. You want to add anything? No. Okay. Let's see. This one says, situation of building back up the police force. I often hear, for instance, that we no longer can stop speeding because we don't have enough police. Oh, we cannot prevent high speeds because we don't have enough police. Okay, so the police force, as well, I don't know. Who knows what we're budgeted for, but we're budgeted for about 20 more police sworn officers than what we have. We are making some progress with that. We had 6 new officers sworn in on Tuesday, and we have more in the pipeline. part of what we're doing is trying to increase morale at the police department. And also we've implemented a couple of new policies that are quite attractive to the police, including our take-home car policy. This allows police to take their cars home, after the workday and drive back to work in those cars. That is a double benefit. The police officers then don't have to go all the way to the south side of town to pick up their vehicles and park their personal vehicles, et cetera. So it's a time savings for them and a convenience savings, to be sure. But it also is the case that when they get a call, if they are at home or if they may be en route to work already, they can respond much more quickly. And we already, this policy has only been in effect for, 45 days maybe. And we've already had several instances of having sworn officers able to arrive on scene more promptly. That 105 number is the sort of ideal. That's we have enough officers on the road for our general safety, but to do true community policing and some of the initiatives that really we would like to get to, we need to get up to about 105 sworn officers. Okay, you want to? Yeah.
I think too with policing, a lot of folks say Bloomington is unique, and we are unique and special. But I think, decreasing police forces across the U.S. is an issue that is not unique to Bloomington. It's a really hard job, right? And over the decades, police have been asked to do more and more. And sometimes that's very different from how policing started, I would say. And so I think it's also really important to take a look at what we're asking our police officers to do and what we can take off their plates so that they aren't burnt out so much and they don't have to spend so much time in overtime. Of course, that's a problem with the number of police we have right now. But I think looking at it as a holistic public safety issue, right? And I mean, I know it's hard for folks to step up in the face of murders like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. It's just not necessarily a place that people want to enter into, I would say. So looking at what other cities are doing around hotlines, right, for maybe feeling unsafe in a way that might not require a police officer to come out to your house, or looking at traffic control and if we need police for that, or if there's a different type of officer or position in the city that makes sense for directing traffic, for example, on game days or something. I know IUPD does a lot with that as well. But just looking at ways to make changes too, I think is really important. And I actually think this also stretches across, I know we're talking about police, but Bloomington, city staff in general, right? We have people coming and going a lot, and then we have people taking over 2 jobs instead of 1. And there's, I think in general, a lot of burnout can happen, and we have to make sure we just take care of all of our city staff across all boards. I'm not saying we're not doing that. I think you all are doing great in the studies you're doing, yes, to see what's needed and where and how we can make everyone feel safe and included in the workplace. So I think those are really good steps.
And I'll just take this opportunity since Kate mentioned crisis line. Most of our community does not know that we do have a 988 line. It's a non-police line that can help for mental health crisis or other situations that you need some help that you don't want police to come to, or you think police aren't needed. So I'm trying to do my part to educate people when I'm in front of people that 988 is a great number to use, and the Stride Center is manning that line right now. Okay, what is the latest update on the convention center expansion? So the convention center, I'm not even going to assume people know this. We have formed a capital improvement board, and that capital improvement board has 3 members appointed by the county, 3 members appointed by the city, and then 1 member that those 6 vote on. And that board has been operating since 2023. They have a controller and legal counsel, and they have engaged a design firm. and they're in the middle of reviewing the request for proposals. I'm already talking government speak. Request for proposals for construction manager as constructor. And so the city council has already had one work session for input on the convention center, and we'll have more. And my hope is that we have something akin to a charrette with our county colleagues, both commissioners and council, together with our council and administration, so that we can share ideas about what we're hoping to get out of the convention center and then let the CIB do their work. And so my expectation is that we'll probably be, you won't see anything visible on the convention center in probably the next year in terms of construction, because we'll be in design phase. But you can track progress on the convention center by attending the CIB meetings. I think they are working possibly on making the Zoom feed public so you can watch from home. But you can also read Dave Askin's articles about the CIB and what they're up to.
So the next council work session on the convention center is, I think, May 30th. We have a lot of meetings coming up for different things. I think it's May 30th, 3:30 to 5 p.m. in the Allison conference room. So at those meetings, we try to keep it really just council talking through what an expansion should potentially look like and maybe what it should not look like, and all within the realm of a budget that is a little bit of a question mark based on what bonding we can do. But if you would like to come to those meetings to listen, you are more than welcome. Or if you would like to email your representative, all four of them, prior to any of the meetings, to let them know what you would like or not like in that space, that could be useful. But there will, as Mayor Thompson says, be opportunities for design charrettes and input in the planning process for residents. I mean, I'm like, it's no secret, but also I don't know what folks know, that I am not a proponent of the expansion, mostly based on the community survey over the past 7 years. Residents tend to say they don't care for an expansion. It has a popularity anywhere between, I think, 16 and 22%, as opposed to something like Hopewell neighborhood, which I think is like 68% approval. We have been collecting the food and beverage tax since 2017, and that has to go, it can go to this convention center expansion and also related tourism activities. So something that might be a possibility to include in this expansion would be redesigning Kirkwood Avenue, so it becomes more of a magnet point, I would say, for folks in our county and the region, and like increasing economic development, right, and a more permanent community space where folks can be outside in the street potentially year round. So I also think just data on convention centers in general kind of says they don't tend to do what they say they will do. And I just want to be careful with city funding on this one to make sure our expectations aren't too high and we don't end up using more taxpayer dollars for the life of it. I live next door to it and park a vacant lot right now. And I'm excited, though, to see that area developed. I think the one right next to me is owned by the county. I think it would also be an awesome space if we do a convention center expansion and a new justice center, which is something we're also talking about. I know the county commissioners really want a space in Hopewell neighborhood, but that's not exactly where it seems like the best place for it. I think it's a little too far from the transit center in Hopewell, but I think something like 3rd and Madison would be a really awesome place to keep folks downtown. I know a lot of attorneys, when they go to the Justice Center, go out to lunch afterwards, and I know a lot of folks rely on buses and transit to get to the Justice Center currently.
Awesome. I'll just say for the record, I am a fan of the expanded convention center. And we have been collecting the food and beverage tax, which is the city's part of it is supposed to go towards the convention center. And I think we can do a lot of economic development around the convention center and even on Kirkwood with money that can come into the TIF and other things through increased revenue. So this is our last question, so you all need to draft more questions and wave them in the air, and we'll come get them for you. Otherwise, Kate and I will be doing interpretive dance or something for the rest of our time, which also could be very fun. Okay, this is maybe a suggestion more than a question, which says, use the empty Pollard Lodge building for affordable artist studio space as suggested at recent artist forum. The Pollard Lodge is in the near West Side neighborhood, and it has been vacant for some time. We actually are having some discussions at the city about putting together affordable artist studio space. So it's on our radar. I don't believe that we have looked at the Pollard Lodge, and I don't know what it would take to purchase that. But I do know there has been some conversation about putting that space close to trades or in the trades district. And there have been other suggestions as well. So happy to have that suggestion, and I can pass it on to Holly. You want to read it? Oh, yeah.
That's the long one. I think it's a really awesome idea, and I love that the administration is working on artist space, living studio space kind of hybrid. I think there are a lot of good examples out there in other cities. I know Alexandria outside of Washington, D.C. has the Torpedo Factory where it's a nonprofit and artists share space, and it's also their open studio. So it really helps someone always be in there working, but also able to sell if people come in to buy art. And then because they share space with other artists, they don't have to be there every hour that the Torpedo Factory is open. I also talk about bringing trades to the trades district. I miss that we don't have I don't think we have a shoe repair store in Bloomington anymore. Things like fine leather goods and iron works and metal shops. And Detroit has a really good one, weirdly called Pony Ride. I don't know why that's what it's called, but it is very similar also to the Torpedo Factory, where folks work in their studios and sell what they made right there. So I think it would be awesome if we somehow, it's really hard to find money, of course, but could incentivize and subsidize makers as they're starting out to get back in there, especially in the areas of local goods and helping us reuse what we have already bought.
Okay, so this is I'm going to try to summarize this. This question is submitted by somebody who lives in the Kinzer Pike neighborhood, who submitted a U report asking that BPD start monitoring the speed of vehicles on Kinzer Pike. Speed limit is 30, but cars travel much faster, up to the point of not being able to see the vehicle. Also asked that transportation that they set up one of those speed displays to show people their actual speed. And this individual was told that BPD does not service them because they only cover halfway between Acuff and Bales. And they were told to contact the sheriff's office. So and this individual wants to know, if they pay city taxes, why do they not get police service? So if you are in the city limits, the police do service you. So, but Acuff and Bales sounds to me like county. We would, it's your district, the cutoff road, but Acuff is pretty far. So if you live in the city, the police do service you, and I'm happy to talk to you afterwards about where in fact you live and if you're in the city limits. And if you are not in the city limits, then it's actually the sheriff that services you. So that would be the cutoff there. Do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah. Well, I think in general, this was touched on earlier, but our police force is just so busy right now, and I think it is really hard to be out there catching folks speeding. I think it's just really hard. They're just so taxed, right? And they're in the city, going all over the place, doing things, responding to calls, and I don't think they have a lot of time to. That doesn't sound very good, I guess, but like sit and wait for speeders. But of course, it is one way that we can work on decreasing speeds in the city. Also, Indiana makes it really hard to do this. We're not allowed to put up cameras at stoplights for running lights, right? For running red lights. There's a lot that we're not allowed to do, and they only allow for like human intervention in that space. So always like thank you, Indiana government, for that. Want me to read one?
Sure.
This one, you know the answer to this. Do we ever send anyone to talk with the homeless on the street and the panhandlers so they know what or where help is? I'd like to see them off street corners. Or on street. I think that might be saying I'd like to see folks helping on the streets. I would say yes to that. There's a lot of help, and the mayor probably can respond better than I can about every single service provider that's out there helping.
Yeah, so we do have folks that are doing outreach on the streets and in the encampments, and so we have downtown resource officers that are part of our police force, but they wear a different uniform, and they are talking to people who are unsheltered, homeless every day. So they tend to know them by name. They offer them services and help connect them where they are able to get service, and they also are, helping to get them to the places that where they can find resources. So on the city's part, the downtown resource officers, and then we also have after hours ambassadors. Those are our after hours ambassadors are meant to be really our hospitality core in the downtown, and they end up interacting with unhoused individuals who are also unsheltered, especially in the evenings. So on the city staff side, that's what's going on. We also have a number of homeless service providers who are just phenomenal, really, and including HealthNet, which is doing street outreach with medicine. Beacon, who has street outreach workers, the Indiana Recovery Alliance. So there's several teams, and IU Health has one through their Positive Link program. So those teams all work on the streets in real time. They also meet every single Monday to share case notes and to make note of anybody who may be headed towards real crisis. And we're working towards rapid rehousing. That's the principle that we're working on in a Housing First model. And my goal is to ensure that we have a place for everybody who's unsheltered to lay their head under a roof at night.
Okay, next question. When you look to other cities for examples, which cities and why are they good examples? So I do a lot of research when thinking about changing something in our city, because a lot of times, like I would say we're not unique, right? And we face a lot of the same problems that other cities are facing, whether they are smaller, the same size, or larger, whether they are in the south or the north, if they're a college campus or not. So I think I pretty much look around everywhere, and I think most examples of anything working can be tweaked to be tried potentially in Bloomington.
I would agree. I think it's great to get ideas from other cities, especially if they have tried things already. I also will say I'm never a fan of a straight cookie cutter approach. We have a different community than anybody else. That's true for every community out there, which means we have different assets that we can leverage to solve problems. And so we can take a good example and make it even better here in Bloomington. But I think we always have to look at our economy, our demographics, and what will and won't work here in Bloomington. What can be done about vacant, deteriorating houses? Vacant, deteriorating houses can be, it depends how deteriorated they are. They can be rehabbed depending on if the owner is willing to pass them on. But they also can be deemed unfit for habitation, and that is a call that Hand would make. So, calling Hand about problem properties that are unsafe to be around is the best bet. And you know, if they're just vacant, but they're not unsafe, there are property rights, and so those property owners get to keep them even though they're vacant.
I also think about vacant land. It's not exactly the question, but especially in our walkable neighborhoods, there are vacant properties out there. And they tend to make me really sad because I wish they had a home on them so someone, you know, could live in a really walkable space. Sometimes I think about trying to tax them at a higher rate, but I don't think Indiana allows that.
Okay. Another thing Indiana doesn't allow.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the Summit District PUD, which was approved by the City Council last night. Any idea how much investment of TIF would be required to make that all of that infrastructure happen? So the city is in conversations with that developer about how to make the infrastructure work, and if there's going to be city subsidy at all, what the best subsidy for that might be. It could be TIF, it could be something else, and it could just be a staged development plan so that all of the infrastructure doesn't have to go in at once. So those conversations have been initiated, but I will tell you they're not too far down the road yet, because they needed to know what project they were doing and get a project approved. That's how you know what streets and sewers you're going to put in eventually. Then you can start pricing it out and figure out what you have money for and what you need subsidy for. So we are in conversations with them, but they're really just at the beginning stages.
That was a great answer. That was our last question. So also about the PUD, I would just like to talk about some really neat things that will be happening out there as things get built. So I would say I'm really proud of the city for getting that PUD approved last night. And there are some things that got added because it is a PUD. We can require developers to do more than just what is in the UDO. So something that got passed is that at least 40% of the units have to be up for owner occupancy. So the neat part about that is we tend to leave owner occupancy for single family homes, but this will require that apartment/condos, so smaller units, will also have opportunities for ownership and, you know, lived in by folks who own them and build equity in that space, which is really exciting. We also built in affordability to that, also wonderful for the city. And we also required recycling and not just trash pickup, because anything over, I think it's 5 units, we don't service. The people have to do private pickup, and so a lot of folks leave out the recycling. So in that space out there, they will be required to pick up trash and recycling. So just some of the neat parts that we can do when we work with developers and collaborate on what should happen in a space.
Who has another question? Yes.
In your call for action, with the invitation for this evening,
Yes.
you said bring your concerns and possible solutions and that. And so first of all, I would like to thank you and Councilperson very, very much for inviting us, because we're part of this district. We're the Near West Side Historic District, the new district. And with us tonight, we have the president, Alan, and Alan Balkema and his wife Monica, and I'm Susan Valentine, and I'm a resident of the Near West Side and very proud to be a new member for the past 2 years. With some of the things that you mentioned this evening, severe affordable housing crisis, that the city's experiencing, the Near West Side Historic District could prove to be a resource in your challenge. With our attendance this evening, we would like to start a dialogue with you and Hand on some of the problems, because we feel that for the city to work with our district and the residents looking at the future, that we're supporting a platform that Jody Madeira has presented, and she's focused on a housing needs assessment. She focused on regulation of short-term rentals, Airbnbs, and you mentioned that this evening. Higher taxes for vacant, derelict properties. At the present, these three items are of the utmost concern for the historic district, because right now we're experiencing that, and you know, the walking community, we are a walking, biking community. To the best of our knowledge, with some of the work that we've done in the district, presently that we know of, 7 derelict properties, all of which that are vacant, including some that have been vacant for over 10 years, a fire damaged structure that had a fire well over 2 years ago and is still vacant and still is derelict, has an unlocked car with a door open that could very easily become a home for someone because it's on an alley and it's quite, you know, private. And the vacant Pollard Elks Club that, you know, you mentioned earlier. And that was listed on the endangered list for Indiana, and in the hopes that there'd be some attention brought to it. And that was back in 2022, and nothing has basically happened, as you know. And then there's 6 Airbnbs that we know of, you know, in the Near West Side. So, a needs assessment would clarify the impact of existing derelict structures and short-term rentals on the housing crisis and how it is affecting the quality of life of the Near West Side. We at the Near West Side will clarify would like to ask you, the mayor, to continue a dialogue with us, have a meeting with our group, and take this forward and see how we can work together with you to look at the future of, you know, the Near West Side and help with the crisis that we're all facing.
I would love to do that. I think that we reached out to see if I could come to one of your neighborhood meetings. Isn't that right? Is it on my calendar yet? Okay.
We're having an election. There's a possibility that I might not be the president anymore.
Okay.
He will be. He will be.
Okay. Well, so I reached out to you all looking for a possibility of coming to talk to you. So let me know when that works out and I'll be there. Happy to continue the conversation. And, you know, anything that's legal is, you know, above board to talk about. We do have 2 housing studies that, you know, one that was done in 2019 and the last one that was just done in 2023. So we have those and those are available. And so we understand what's needed. And my team at the city is working on developing an actual tactical plan for how to get the units that we need, and would love your input as we do that.
Well, we appreciate that you had this evening and that we could work with you.
Yes, I'll look forward to it. I used to live on the Near West Side, so I love an invitation anytime I can come. Yes.
Yeah, Mayor, I want to thank you for not sending the Bloomington police into Dunmow.
You're welcome.
And for Kate, you were involved with the Traffic Commission for a long time, is that correct?
No, but my sister did work at the city, and she may have been the staff liaison. I'm not sure.
Okay, all I wanted to talk about traffic lights in the city. They're in horrible condition. There's one on the corner of Covenanter and College Mall Road that I first brought it to their attention over a year and a half ago. And I got back maybe 10 months after that, and they said, well, it's a complicated problem, and we know about it, but we have no money to fix it.
Can you tell us what the
Similar
problem
things.
is?
Yeah, what's
problem?
the problem? What's the problem with the light
The pedestrian
signal?
system operates whether there's a pedestrian pushing it or not. At 2 in the morning, you can be on College Mall Road, and it'll be on Covenanter for 4 minutes with no traffic anywhere. High and Hillside, the same thing, the pedestrian, the arrow going one direction goes no matter what. I could tell you about 6 or 7 lights, and when I call them or, email them, they say, yeah, we're aware of it, but we have no money. So I just want you to be aware the traffic lights in Bloomington are not in good shape.
Thank you. So it sounds like they're not synced well, and they're not communicating for the ease of flow that we need. We do have we do have an engineering firm contracted to look at our lighting system now and the synchronization and things like that. And I don't know if those are in that plan or not, but I'm happy to check and get back to you. And if you can leave your name and contact with Josefa down here, then we will circle back with you. Okay?
With the pedestrian push button, I think it probably might be useful if there's more signal related to car traffic coming, right? And like a mechanism that shows when a car is there, potentially. Just with pedestrians and crosswalks, it's more convenient and it leads to more safety if pedestrians don't have to push a button, but that their walk sign is a part of the naturally occurring light, I guess. But I think probably something could be looked at with keeping it green one direction, right? If nobody's coming.
Who else has ideas, comments, questions? Yes.
I'd like to follow up on the derelict house issue because, they kind of, I've heard this call hand for the 8-9 years I lived in the neighborhood about a house. Now we have 4 of them that are definitely vacant for a long, long time, and hand says, I've called and they say there's nothing that can be done. But the house that's, the most egregious is full of rats, and, they come into our yard. And how can that, even if the house is closed up, it's still filled with varmints. And yet hand comes and they say, take down the bamboo. Well, the house is falling down. And so I just want some clarity on when does hand take action?
So, Alan, do I have your contact information? Yeah. So, Josefa, can you make a note, and we will figure out what the policy really is, and we can't overstep anybody's property rights. But if there is a structure that is of danger, if the structure is of danger, then it can be ruled as such. And we'll look into the rest of the policies for you. Yes.
Actually, we probably all would like to know that because all of our neighborhoods, we're
Yeah,
in different neighborhoods.
these houses are
We're
all
on
over.
17th Street right here.
Okay.
They're all over the place. Yeah.
Okay. Great.
So maybe if you could make a bigger announcement.
Okay. We will check into that and circle back. I, for one, would like to get any vacant property rehabbed and made affordable for habitation. Who else? Yes. That's a great question. So if 988 is a great number. It's staffed 24/7, so anytime, day or night, and it is for mental health, substance use, I'm not really sure if somebody's having a mental health crisis, but I'd like some feedback. Maybe send somebody out here to check it out. So it's for any of those instances that you do not believe people have weapons or it's going to become very unsafe. So it's not for criminal activity. It is for people who are in some kind of mental health crisis or you think they may be getting there. And if no immediate response is needed, they also are helpful in helping you figure out what resources are available. So if it's for a loved one, they're helpful in helping connect you to services. No more questions. Yes.
Mine is just a comment. Mine was the question about the convention center.
Uh-huh.
I know, Kate, you mentioned that the interest was low for the public. I find that curious because I'm actually in favor of it. I see a lot of neighboring areas where there are conventions that come in and brings a lot of economic growth to the area. So I'm hoping, I know there's been a lot of back and forth from the previous administration and the county. I'm hopeful that your administration will be able to move that forward. And so I'm just expressing that I'm hoping that happens. I think, yes, there will have to be some good policies and some good discussions about what is needed for the community, but I really feel like that it would be a benefit. So just mentioning that as a member of the community.
Thanks for your comment. I used to direct Habitat for Humanity, and for about the last 8 years that I was there, we had to decline to have some guests at our biggest fundraiser of the year because we couldn't fit them in the convention center. So it's been a long time that since we've outgrown that convention center, even as a civic space. So that's a civic use, not a convention use. And so I know there's lots of people in the community that are eagerly looking forward to new space.
And I mean, I also just want to say, I know I might be in a majority of what residents want, but I'm definitely in a minority of what council wants. So, I mean, it is moving forward, don't you worry. And so, I mean, I understand that, right? And so I am happy to work with everyone to figure out what is most useful in that space. I think some parts of it are exciting, like talking about things that residents are missing, which it's not a convention center necessarily, but more like a civic center. Folks have said a really good teen space. We've kind of lost that over the last 10 years. Senior care potentially, or like places for seniors to gather. Maybe if you have like mental illness or something, you could drop someone off, right? And they could be watched, something like almost like a senior daycare, I think is what they call it. Also, some people have talked like about restaurant incubators that could, also be the food court for the convention center, but it would be open all the time, right? It's like little restaurants or food stalls for folks in the community too, to come out. I mean, I think there are a lot of good things that can come from it. So, right, I've said all my things, right, about my feelings on it, or feelings is the wrong word, I guess, but thoughts on it about with like data and the surveys. But I'm working with council and the mayor's office and the county on this now and how we use the space as well.
Curious question, being a fairly new resident of Bloomington. Does the city have any plans to aggressively go after retail for this community? Because you have a severe problem with retail, especially with the thing that's called a mall, and with the fact that groceries are limited to Kroger and some specialty grocers. And I've never seen a city this size that has no competition for one grocery store.
Well, I could start on that. So we have Kroger, we have B Foods, Fresh Time, Aldi, Walmart has a grocery. I think our Target has a small grocery in it. Small, right. So, I mean, it's been relatively recently, I think, that we got the Aldi on the east side. I know years and years ago, there was talk either about a Trader Joe's or a Whole Foods, but people in the community said really they like Bee Foods, and so I think we didn't get that back then. I don't know. So I think, I guess I think we have some variety there in our stores. Downtown, are you kind of talking about like walkable in the downtown, or, right?
Really looking at, the grocery store part of it, because, or, other options.
Other options. Yeah, I think something too that,
It really is the only large grocer in the market, because some people can afford Fresh Time. Aldi, yeah, you can, but there's no competition. And what's happening with the mall?
I don't know what's happening with the mall.
Someone needs to talk to the Simons about that mall, because they just put how many students right next door to that mall. It's a market for that mall, and they've not
Yes,
announced anything.
the mall is a great opportunity, and cities, around the country are reinventing their mall spaces. In terms of aggressively going after retail, I wouldn't say we're doing that, but I do, my vision for what the convention center is going to help attract, and what we need to be really conscious of attracting are unique Bloomington things. When people come to conventions, when they come to see their kids at IU, they want to eat at the great Bloomington restaurants, and they want to go to the cute little Bloomington boutiques. And so, I think there's plenty of space for that. I know plenty of people tell me that they do all their clothes shopping online. I try to do mine on the square, but I don't always have everything I need there. And that whole corridor is really ripe for redevelopment. I mean, we've got lots of empty lots there, or underutilized lots that have been waiting for the new convention center, and so I think that's a great place to go. My understanding about Fresh Time and Trader Joe's is that they actually have done some market research here, and we don't support it. So that could change as our population changes. I don't know. But Blooming Foods is pretty great. So there is some grocery variety, and I agree. It is too bad that the two other big grocers have left Bloomington now.
A fun fact about the College Mall area is it's one of the most walkable, or it has one of the highest walk scores in the city. So you can live out there and get to everything you need on foot. It might not be a very pleasant walk because it's very wide roads with a high speed for the most part. But if you would like to know your walk score, I think the website is like walkscore.com.
That's very interesting, because I used to live on the east side, and I did not like walking there. Who else? Really? No more hard questions? We're waiting for our hard one to come. No? Okay. Yes?
I don't have a hard question. I was thinking about the mall, though. I mean, one is retail, but if stores are all moving out, why wouldn't that be a place for this idea of a senior center? For one thing, old people aren't going to be, even I don't do it anymore, aren't going to be walking in their wheelchairs to the convention center. So there's really good parking at the mall.
There is an Enright Center in the mall. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there is some creative reuse happening in the mall. Yeah.
Maybe we ought to keep encouraging that.
Yeah.
These things.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. And is that something that Simon's corporate works with you on? Do they talk to you about these things?
No. I mean, they could have talked to the last administration, but they have not talked to me. Yeah.
They would go.
It's a private
they would go
landowner.
directly.
Yeah.
They would
So-
go directly to the organization, and the organization would strike a deal with them. So they probably are not getting it completely free. They're paying something for it.
It's Area 10 on aging.
In the front, did you have a question?
I'm the person that wrote about Kinzer Pike.
Oh,
and the
great.
speed limit,
Yeah.
Police Department. I know I'm in the city, but there's not a question about that.
Okay.
I pay city taxes. I've been there for 18 years, and my understanding is that it was annexed about 20 years ago, 21, so 2 to 3 years before I moved out there. And of course, you know, when I was working full-time, I didn't have time to worry about
Yeah.
traffic and stuff. But I'm retired now, and I thought, maybe stupidly, when I moved out there, that in 20 years, when I retired, that there might be bus service, there would be sidewalks, and there's still no bus service. They only come up to Acuff Road. There's no sidewalks. And I brought all of this up in the original U report that I put in, not necessarily expecting the police to come out there and sit, because I know they don't have time to do that. But I call the police when the cars run off the side of the road and end up, you know, turned halfway over into the pasture next door. We have people running through the fences, knocking the fences down on the land that has cows and horses in them. So, and what it is that in terms of the city, anything on the west side of Kinzer Pike is city property. Anything on the east side is county, down to about the Rosewood addition, I think, is where it changes over. So there's not a question about this. And as recently as last fall, there was a senior man that was hit by a car riding a bicycle. Kinzer Pike is filled with bicycles, especially in the spring when the students practice for the Little 500.
17th Street.
So
It's Madison.
it seems to me that if I have paid taxes for 18 years, that I should get something out of it. I have a septic system, I get Washington Township water. I did my own garbage with the county up until I was told I had to join the program because of the change in the containers. And if all I'm getting out of it is recycling, which I didn't really feel because I recycled with the county anyway, it's like, what's the point of being in the city and paying the taxes? And if there's an arrangement between McLean County Sheriff and Bloomington Police Department that Bloomington comes up until halfway on the road between Acuff and Bales, then it's their responsibility to do that arrangement. It's not up to me, the city citizen who's paying the taxes, to have to navigate a new department that I've never dealt with. So that's, and really what I had asked for out of the U report was the traffic device that sets it up and says, you're going 60 miles an hour. And they do that, you know. When I hear a swoosh and I can't even look to see the car coming down the hill because it's already past my house, that's not 30 miles an hour. And that's what I'm after. If I don't get city sidewalks by paying taxes, then I should at least be able to get a traffic device set up that says, you're going 60 miles an hour. And 60 miles an hour on Kinzer is dangerous. It's a wonder that the senior man last year was not killed when he was hit by the car.
Yes. So I'm happy to take your name and look at your address and see what coordination we can help with. You're right, it's not your job to have to coordinate with multiple departments. We do have a sidewalk program. I don't know if you have applied to that.
I would was told
But-
that Kinzer is on the schedule.
Okay.
But I imagine it's been on the schedule for 18 years, because I was told that was one of the things that was promised to the area when they were annexed.
I see. It has not been on the schedule for 18 years because the sidewalk scheduling. Yeah, I mean, if it's on the schedule, then it's on a schedule with a date for when they expect to put it on or install those sidewalks. So. Again, if you pass your information to Josefa, she'll make a note and we'll figure out what's happening with your address and down Kinzer.
I would also add, so as a council person, I am almost representative of Rogers all the way up to Kinzer. So it's all the same road, right? So Rogers to Madison to Kinzer. There's one precinct where Isabel Piedmont Smith lives that I don't have that chunk, and now she has the south part of Rogers. But Rogers and Madison and North Madison and Kinzer have been on my list for so long because so many people up and down from south to north, right, have talked about the high speeds on Rogers and North Madison and Kinzer. And it's just really hard because there's such limited funding in the space of trying to get people to drive the speed limit. It's crazy because that's all we're talking about, right? We just want people to go the posted speed limit. It's a lot safer than what they are doing. So engineering has a lot of good ideas that, we can try to implement for potentially lower dollars, right? Like North Madison is a huge problem as you're coming off the 11th Street, you're going north in that hill, people just speed down it. And I think the speed limit there is 25 miles per hour, but it's incredibly hard to even get your car to go 25 miles per hour. So I would just say it's on my radar. So like, that is my district, right? And I've definitely driven up there, and I think it's almost scary to pull out of a driveway even onto Kinzer because cars can be going so fast. Just where you live, it feels very much like a country road, and people tend to drive more like they're on a country road. I also think, speaking to the bus service, the main way people get north, right, into those neighborhoods is by car. So they speed a lot. It's high traffic counts, and it's really, right, there's potentially no bus service or a little bus service, and the sidewalks end somewhere, and they're a little sporadic on north. Okay.
Everything seems to end at.
Right, and then we have Bloomington North up there, right? So there are times of the day where traffic is so backed up, right? I mean, I've been door knocking and I've seen all that, and I've seen people hurry around those turns, right? Or it is terrifying. And I spoke to some families, there are two newer families there with like little bitty babies, right? And they're like, we just want to be able to walk across to Cascades, but we have to go all the way around. There's just a lot of, I don't want to say problems, but potential up there that we can look at. I mean, we have like safe routes to schools that we can consider, because I think also getting folks into different modes of transportation and safely in that space, and right now it's not very safe to do that. So it's definitely on my radar as to like what we can do as a city, right, to make it safer for everyone, and to get drivers to like safely get where they're going at the speed posted.
Yeah, why
Yep.
don't we take one more
Nope.
question and then we can wrap it up.
I just want to follow up on, because, so I'm in a neighborhood association, and neighborhood associations talk with one another, and this is a recurring problem all over the city. So you're on Kinzer, and by the way, I go down there, and it's terrible. Those kids are running on the street and everything.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
the other thing,
The track team.
Track
Yeah.
teams run the road also.
And I live on
Adams is like
17th
that
Street.
too.
That scares me to death when I see, 13 and 14-year-old kids running on that road.
So they have this thing called what's that called? The traffic calming devices, right? So there's $50,000 for that. That's not gonna go anywhere every year, so we've applied for it. 17th Street, they did a traffic study, 70 miles an hour between this roundabout and that hill. Not just going down, going up. And I'll tell you, it's city vehicles, it's this school, the Monroe County Public School buses, it's bus 11. I write to these people, I write to the trucking companies, we have tried everything.
I've started thinking I'm just gonna call the trucking
I
company
call
every time.
I call them, but
Yeah.
usually you get the nice woman who answers and she understands your problem, but it doesn't seem to get any further.
That nice woman at the trucking company.
Yes.
Write her a thank you
And
note.
so it's all well and good to say, you know, we can put up speed bumps and put all these things in the middle of the road to make people go slow. That's not gonna happen on 17th Street because too many emergency vehicles use it. Apart from police monitoring, I don't know how you're gonna get people to slow down, but.
Well, just to dispel a perceived message that seems to be permeating here, our police are still stopping people for speeding. They're still making lots of traffic stops. So it's not that they're not doing any of that.
When they stop them, if they could ask them to get their mufflers if they're exceeding our noise ordinances.
Can I add that too? Yeah. Well, I will say there are a lot of, I mean, you're talking about traffic, like speed bumps, traffic humps, all that stuff. I was at a national transportation conference last year. There are so many options that are mountable. So good for police and fire to drive over. And I know at least our fire department, I think our police department can be pretty on board if that is what we install, right? The traffic calming program, it is $50,000, and that's for the resident-led version. There's also a staff-led version. So traffic calming goes farther than other things. Like a sidewalk is about $1.5 million per mile, right? We can do traffic calming at a lot less than that. And sometimes traffic calming is more useful because, again, a lot of the times it's just about how do we get drivers to drive the speed limit. It feels like it should be an easy question to answer, but it is very challenging.
A lot about it while I was trying to solve these problems on my street for the last, 10 years?
It's only been a year and a half for me.
Oh,
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate you being here tonight. And thank you, Kate, for co-hosting in your district with me. And I'm doing these in every district. So we've done 1 and 2. Is 3 next, Josefa? See, we're all scheduled. So we post these on social and elsewhere as well. So you can come back and to anybody's town hall. It's for everybody. We just move the location of them. And thanks for spending your evening with us tonight.